How do I know if my mind is trying to escape from an environment or if I've simply outgrown it and need to move on? Previously, I found the culture energizing, so it's referring to a workplace. I feel that it no longer is in line with my nature. The environment is not where I want to be long term. I feel like I've learned what I could from this environment and I'm no longer growing. There are still external challenges, but I do not feel challenged internally. But I feel like there's some friction, perhaps a mismatch in values. I'm extremely successful, but the work is not bringing me joy. It's not draining me, just feels stagnant, almost robotic. Okay, so the question is, how do I know if my mind is just trying to escape or if I've outgrown the environment and I need to move on? On the surface of it, it looks pretty obvious. The description that it was energizing is no longer. It's not where I want to be. I'm not challenged. There's a mismatch of values. I feel stagnant, robotic. It's like, well then, what do you need us for? You've laid it out pretty clearly. It's something you should not be. But of course, within the question is the idea that perhaps this is all just a justification. That this is just me painting my virtues onto my frustration. Oh, the reason I'm frustrated is because I've grown out of it. And of course the ego likes the idea of growth, and that's how it removes the cognitive dissonance that is arising now in the environment. So we don't like the idea that the environment is causing me frustration. And so how do I explain it? How do I develop a sense of coherence around what I'm experiencing now? I must have outgrown it. This is what the ego can do. So the questioner rightly asks the question, how do I know if I have actually outgrown it or if this is just my mind wanting to run away from it? So you need to look for evidence. Look for evidence of escape or the attempt to escape, and look for evidence of growth. And when you find the preponderance of evidence on one side, then you can make an assessment, it looks like I'm trying to escape. The other aspect to think about here is the question puts it in either or terms, black and white, zero sum. It's either I've grown out of it or my mind is trying to escape. You also need to consider the possibility that both are true. I have outgrown it. And because I've outgrown it, my new needs are not being met, and that's causing me frustration, and so I want to escape. So the either or way of looking at a situation can be useful. When you do find that you have an either or approach to a situation, keep it, pop it to the side for the moment and say, now let's look at what a both and approach might look like. Either way, you can now check for evidence of escape, check for evidence of growth. So evidence for the ego, really, I guess is what we're saying here, evidence for looking to escape. Start to self-reflect. What would the ego be trying to escape here? Growth is put on one side and escape is put on the other. Is it this or that? Now, growth is clearly positive, which implies that the escape aspect is negative. Why is the escape aspect negative? Now, if you are trapped under rubble because of an earthquake, trying to escape is the right thing to do. The feeling of wanting to escape is the right feeling. The decision to escape is the right one. You should escape things that are harmful to your well-being. But in the context here, the idea of escape has been given that negative connotation. Why is it negative? Why is the notion of escape negative? You could perhaps sum it all up and we say the ego is trying to escape its obligations. It's my obligation to be here. And I'm trying to escape that obligation. So what is the ego trying to escape? What should I be staying for? To fulfill my obligations. Now, what are my obligations? Okay, that's the whole next question. But the point here is to ask the question, what is the ego trying to escape? And so that, again, it requires some self-reflection. What is the situation I am in? You know, the aspects on the surface have been identified. The sense of boredom, the sense of routine, etc. All of these aspects of the workplace have been identified. But if we take this lens now that the ego is trying to escape its obligations, try and answer it that way. So what we're doing here, remember, is looking for evidence. We're not presuming that it is the case that the ego is trying to escape its obligations. We're checking to see if we can find evidence of the ego trying to escape its obligations. And so that requires you to self-reflect and understand your own relationship with the workplace, understand your own unique nature. Another aspect to bear in mind is not to confuse a particular emotion with being ego. So again, we've touched on this idea that if growth is seen as positive and the desire to escape is put in opposition to that, then it must be negative. But just because we have an unpleasant emotion doesn't make it a negative emotion, right? So if we use this framework that we see here, and let's just shift the axes around to make it a bit clearer. There's different ways that we can categorize emotions. An emotion is pleasant or unpleasant. I like it or I don't like it. An emotion can also be healthy or adaptive, or unhealthy, maladaptive. So just because an emotion is unpleasant doesn't mean it's unhealthy. Emotions don't give us reliable information about the world, but they do give us reliable information about our relationship to it. So if I have an unpleasant emotion towards my workplace, and some of those have been listed here, I need to decide if that unpleasant emotion is on the healthy or the unhealthy side. And as I was touching on earlier, it's possible that you have an unpleasant emotion in a situation and that gives you valuable information that you should leave it. You're being stalked by a tiger. There's an unpleasant emotion. It's a very healthy emotion of fear. Find safety. If your basic needs are not being met in an environment, you will experience unpleasant emotions. And that is a healthy response. Imagine the other way around. Your needs are not being met and you don't get any emotional response as a result. You're getting no signals from your personality that your needs are not being met. That is a disaster. So don't confuse unpleasant emotions with negative emotions. What does the word negative mean? Here we can say a negative emotion is one that is unhealthy for us. So feeling all of these emotions, the unpleasant emotions around the workplace, could be the healthy mind sending appropriate signals. So this is to say, don't confuse negative emotions with being egoistic emotions. We need a different analysis or self-reflection of them. So this is the first aspect of looking for evidence. You're looking for evidence that is the ego trying to escape from its obligations to remain and contribute to the environment. Second aspect is to look for evidence of growth. So what you'll see on this first line here, these numbers, this is indicating the way that we grow. Okay, so we are established at some level of development, and let's call it level 3. As we grow, we are still established in level 3 of growth, but we're starting to show signs of the next level up, level 4. And that's indicated with 3 and 4 in parentheses. And then as we continue to grow, we actually now predominantly show level 4 tendencies. But there's still some aspects of level 3, the previous level, that are still with us, that are continuing to express themselves. And then we drop those and we are now fully established in level 4 of growth. And then as we continue to grow, we'll start to show signs of level 5 and so on and so forth. So that's how growth happens. It's not that we are level 3 and then one day we wake up and we're in level 4. So evidence of growth, what does it mean? There's different ways that you can visualize your growth or conceptualize it. One of the ways that we can look at this is to look for new and improved thoughts, desires, and behavior. So when we have grown, we will recognize that the kind of thoughts I'm entertaining, desires I'm entertaining, and behavior are different. And different how? What makes them better? So once again, there are different metrics that you could use to figure out better. And one that we've used all throughout the Vedanta classes and courses is that of tamas, rajas, and sattva. As we were just discussing with that numbering system, it's not that our desires are one day tamasic and then they slip up to rajasic. It is also a gradual progression. So start to look at the kind of thoughts, desires, and behavior that have been emerging from your personality. What are we doing here? We're looking for evidence of growth. So as you start to grow into a new level of development, you'll experience thoughts that you didn't really have before, or perhaps similar thoughts, but they take on a different meaning to you now. Or desires. Now, we talk about growth being the reduction of desires. Growth is the improvement in the overall packet of desires. So that means that you're losing egoistic desires, but it also means that higher desires now will start to emerge into the personality where they were not there before. Take a simple example of someone who is working in business, making money, and they're loving it. I'm wealthy, I'm taking care of my family for 7 generations. And they start to grow a little bit and realize, I want to give back to my community. Okay, is this growth? Well, we would say yes. A new desire has emerged into the personality. It's not that he has given up his desires to make money. That's still there. But another desire has come into the personality of, I want to help my community. So if the number of desires has increased, has he grown or has he not grown? Okay, that's too simplistic a measure. What's the quality of desire? As that desire becomes more intrinsically motivated, it's a more positive desire. So you're looking for evidence of this as well. Looking for evidence that there has been growth. How do I know I've grown? Because of the quality of my thoughts, desires, and behavior. As we were touching on earlier, part of the confounding element here is that as you grow, your needs change. And as your needs change, the environment now has to meet these new needs. And if they're not being met, you'll feel frustrated. So frustration can also be evidence of growth. As we're touching on here, frustration is a healthy response to a new relationship with your environment. It's a healthy and, you could say, unpleasant response. So these are some of the self-reflections that you need to go through and untangle these for yourself. So another question you can ask is, what is keeping me here? And once again, you can look at this from both perspectives. What is the ego attached to that's keeping me here? What's the ego getting out of being here? And it could be the security that comes with not entering into an unknown path. Similarly, what is my authentic nature getting out of being here? So broadly speaking, then you can think of what you're doing as recognizing that there's a legitimate reason for staying, a legitimate reason for going. There is an egoistic reason for staying and an egoistic reason for going. And so now once you've started to look at the whole picture, you're seeing where the evidence really does stack up and where it doesn't. And that can help you figure out your next step. The other aspect is to ask the question, if I do go, what will I do instead? How will I express my nature? What are the things I'm leaving behind, and what am I going to go and do instead? If you don't have a sense of what you'll do if you leave, it will be much more difficult to leave. Now, some people are built in such a way as they can say, no, I recognize this situation is bad. I don't know what's coming next. I'm just going to quit and see what happens. I'm going to take that big leap of faith. Now, some people are built that way. That's fine for them. Other people aren't built that way. Before they can leave, they have to know at least a little bit of the path I'm going to take instead. So you, again, have to figure out, which one am I? Am I able to just quit and take a leap of faith? Or do I need to have the other path visualized to some degree? So that's something for your reflection as well. What will I do instead? And staying on this idea of the true path could be to stay. If I do stay, what will need to be different? And this is where we can look at both the external and the internal. Okay, what needs to be different about my environment if I stay? And how realistic is that? How much can I manage or change the environment? But if I do stay, what needs to be different about my approach? You know, the question states, I don't feel challenged. The work is not bringing me joy. It feels stagnant and robotic. This is the challenge. So the question itself actually points out the challenges that they are facing in the environment. So why is it not bringing me joy? Why does it feel stagnant? Why does it feel robotic? What needs to change about the environment itself, and what needs to change about my approach towards it so that it brings joy, feels like it's moving, and feels like it's creative. This is your new challenge. So if I'm going to stay, this becomes the new challenge that I need to work on.